Welcome to the Success Ascent. This is Pat Mancuso, your creator and host. Today on our show, we welcome Vanessa Pollock. Now, Vanessa is an entrepreneur, business owner, mother, wife, an accomplished ballet dancer. Her team in the New Jersey area in 2020 helped over 150 families to the tune of over $100 million in sales. Although those numbers are impressive, I know what I took away from interviewing Vanessa was how her heart is what she leads with and how that leadership helps her and her team attract business. I know you're going to enjoy this interview today. On to the Ascent. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso, the creator and host of our show, and we are excited today. We are joined by an absolute dynamo, first in business, entrepreneur, business owner, and also a vision and a mission to give back and create opportunities for people to give through their companies and through the profit and nonprofit realm. And so I'm excited today to welcome Vanessa Pollock. And Vanessa is from New Jersey. I don't know if we'll pick up the accent or not today because I have an accent.
Well, I will tell you, I'm not from New Jersey. I live in New Jersey.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And she's the owner of the Pollock Properties Group out of KW. And she's also the founder and creator of Care, Serve, Give. So we're going to hear a lot about that today. So welcome, Vanessa, to the show.
Thank you so much. It's my absolute honor and pleasure to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. So, Vanessa, I did a little intro, and yet I always like to ask people, so tell us who the real Vanessa is.
Well, I'll tell you, the real Vanessa grew up in Texas, not in New Jersey.
I love it.
I was born in Wichita, Kansas, and I grew up wanting to be a dancer. And so I think a lot of business people, and particularly realtors like myself, maybe didn't grow up wanting to be in real estate. So the real Vanessa is here to admit that this was not my dream as a child. And yet it has fulfilled so many dreams that have come to me during my life. But yeah, I grew up in Texas wanting to be a dancer, and I did actually go on to be a professional dancer.
I did see that. You did some Broadway.
No, my husband is the Broadway star.
Oh,
I was the ballet and modern dancer, and I did my fair share up on the West Coast and on the East Coast, but no, not Broadway. I did that like weird, moody performance art kind of dance.
Okay.
After a run with Ballet Dallas and their corps de ballet. But my amazing husband, yeah, he's been in over half a dozen Broadway shows.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and that's why we're in New Jersey, because we moved from Texas to New York for his Broadway pursuits and my dance pursuits at the time. And then because he went on to be so successful, we've stayed in the area for 24 years now.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. So what brought you into real estate?
Yeah. So I retired from dancing in my mid-20s, right? And then I was a starving artist in New York City. And by starving artist, I mean coat check girl, hostess, waitress, bartender, restaurant manager, fit model, temp, all the things, right? Like my 20s were quite the exploratory decade. My husband got his first big Broadway show, and then the show took us on the road, and I went on tour with him. I was the merch girl on tour. So I was the girl in the lobby selling the t-shirts. And that year on the road, I was pregnant with our first child. So we got home from the tour, and that's a whole different podcast, how you go on a national Broadway tour and have a newborn. We did that. But we came home from the tour with a 6-month-old, and I'm a worker, and I think it comes back from being a dancer. I'm used to standing at the ballet bar 6 days a week and putting in my time, right? And I wanted to get back to work, but I knew that now that I had a child, it had to be more than restaurant work. It had to be more than temp work. It had to be something really meaningful and purposeful if I was going to spend hours or my day away from my son. And my husband turned to me and he said, honey, you love design and you love taking care of people. You need to be in real estate. And I said, do you think? And he was like, sweetheart, we just toured the country for a year, and every city we were in, you dragged me into every open house there was.
Oh,
We don't have a penny to buy a house, nor did we live in those cities, but you constantly are looking at real estate. So yes, you need to go into real estate. So I listened to him. And when you have that kind of encouragement in your life and you have a partner and a spouse who knows you sometimes better than you know yourself,
right.
it's important to listen and lean into that. And I'm so thankful that I did. I tell him all the time, I blame him for all of
I
this.
love it. I love it. I love it. Now, that was how long ago?
So my son, that baby who I started as soon as we got home from that tour, and I got my first real estate license in New York City as a rental agent when he was about 8 months old. That boy turned 17. This
Oh my gosh.
next week. So we're 16 years in.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. It probably only seems like yesterday, right?
It seems like yesterday. And when
Yeah.
I look at my young man and I know that that's how long my career is, I'm like, oh, that's a really tall career.
I love it. I love it. So we're gonna talk about your non. I want to get to the nonprofit, obviously, but let's talk a little bit about your real estate business first. So,
Yeah.
I think you shared with me you all are going to be pushing about $100 million in sales this year.
Yeah, it looks like by end of 2020, we will have closed out 102 million in sales volume, which is in our area around 150 families for the year.
And see what I love, and I interviewed somebody on our podcast recently. It hasn't posted yet, so we're kind of keeping it quiet, you know.
Sure.
They had also done over 100 units and close to 100 million. And yet I think sometimes people look at that and they go, well, your average sale price was $1 million. And I'm like, at the end of the day, the checks still cash like the same checks, right? I help the same amount of families at the end of the day. So it's not an easy feat to do 150 units a year. So what have you found in that trajectory or that growth from your success journey?
Well, my desire early in this journey was to provide a level of service that was just unparalleled and unexpected in our industry. I wanted to surprise people with the care that we provided for them. I wanted to surprise them with the fact that we always put their goals and needs before our own and took care of them in a way that just was selfless on our part.
Mm-hmm.
And so the journey has been bringing people into a team environment where our core mission and vision is that to put people first. And in doing so, success will follow. And so it's taken time to get the right people on the bus, right? And I've been on quite the leadership journey for all these years. And I know that my DNA is the DNA that's truly all over all of the story. And yet, what's been so exciting over the last year or two is that as our mission to care, serve, and give back is more and more known in our community, more and more people want to be a part of it. And so now I've got an unbelievable team of servant-hearted, community-focused, generosity-based associates who share the mission to care, serve, and give back with me. And without them, without it being a unified front where we're all on that mission together,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can grow to this level. And I certainly don't think it's sustainable. Without that kind of commonality.
Yeah. So Vanessa, I love that. And when I was doing the research for our podcast, I was watching your videos, and that message from a team perspective was very clear and consistent. So I may be putting you on the spot, and if I do, I apologize. But so let's say I'm a consumer.
Yes.
Tell me how, because many real estate agents respectfully say everything that you said. And yet what I'd love you to share with the listeners, because I think there'd be so much to take away, is, give me an example, like as a consumer, how would it feel different to me from what you're all doing versus, let's say, Bob, Sally, the real estate agent? Like one example.
Well, within the transaction, we're high tech, high touch, and high design. So everything's going to be cutting edge, everything's going to be beautiful, and everything's going to be highly communicative. But from outside community looking in, someone who's thinking, I might want to do business with a realtor soon. What are they seeing and what's setting us apart? They will see three things. And this truly does come from our foundational giving model that our whole business operates from, which is that all of our marketing is mutually beneficial to the community, meaning that I don't have my signs on billboards. I would rather sponsor a charity's gala event or a school's trivia night and give them the money than a not selfish
Self-promotion.
ad, but
Well, sure.
yeah, exactly. So all 95% of our marketing is mutually beneficial to the community. The second part of it is that our clients know that at the end of their transaction, if you want to even call it that, at the end of their home purchase or home sale, I'm not going to give them a bottle of champagne. I'm going to make a donation to the charity of their choice. And you see that on our marketing. We launched Closing for a Cause years and years and years ago. And so people know that they're not going to get a blanket, or sorry, they're not going to get a Cutco knife. Instead, they are going to get, we're going to make that donation to the charity of their choice for that closing gift. And then the third thing that we do, and we've been doing this for over 6 years now, our community knows that there is a gap in our school district's music education, and we fill that gap as a company by making sure that every student in our school district who can't afford to rent a band or orchestra instrument has an instrument. So we launched the Vanessa Pollock Music Initiative 6 years ago, and we fundraise to it year round, right? We have a huge holiday event, and we fund that year after year after year. And it's, you know, I think a lot of times people go, oh, I'm going to try this new thing and I'm going to try this new thing. None of these are new. We launched these so long ago, and the way it works is just to truly know what you're called to do for your community, get after it, and stay after it.
I love it. So I'm guessing you don't, the night you said 95% of your marketing is that mutual benefit. So you're not doing a massive amount beyond that. I mean, that 95% is a lot. That's a huge number.
Now, look, I do not pull punches or cut costs on marketing my clients' listings. We are full out, right? You got to spend that money to bring in the viewerships and get your clients top dollar. That's our fiduciary responsibility. And yet, if it's brand promotion, it's got to benefit the community. It just has to. Yeah.
And so you said one other thing I wanted to come back to. You said the way that you communicate, the communicative approach. I got that out right. So what does that look like? I love that. What's that?
So we're high tech, high touch, and high design. And the high touch piece for our team is that we have a culture of calling our clients all the time. Not just sending text, but sending video messages, because I believe so much gets lost in translation of a text or an email. Absolutely. And you can't read emotion behind it. But just like I, am talking to you, I want you to either hear my voice or hear my voice and see my face, because so much of communication is through body language. And if my client sees that I'm excited for them and I'm relaxed, it's going to help them feel that. And I feel like stress mitigation is part of our job. And so they will mirror and match how I'm feeling, but you can't do that through an email. Yeah. So we really, in keeping people safe, have leaned into as much Zoom conferencing and conversations as possible. We FaceTime with our clients all the time. We send video messages all the time. And you know what? You don't have to be dressed up to do it. And that's the other thing that's changed this year. I tell the team all the time, it's okay if you're in a sweatshirt. Everyone's in a sweatshirt. Yeah. Send the video, right? Don't have a limiting belief that they'll judge you that you're in a sweatshirt. They'll actually be so thankful that you sent the video and communicated on such a high level.
I love it. I love it. So as you've built the team, I mean, doing 150 units and, you're well over 1 million GCI, that's a good sized business. What have you learned in the journey of success on building a team?
Oh gosh, where do I start? Um, I now know that the people who join the team have to come to the team because of the mission and a love for real estate. It has to be both. If it's just a love for real estate, then I want to help inspire what their mission and vision is and help launch them out into their own career. But if they truly feel called to our music initiative, closing for a cause, who we are and what we do within the community, then we get into the hiring conversations.
Okay.
And I feel really strongly that I have to hire to culture, and I
Right.
have to hire a servant's heart. Skills can come, everyone can learn the skills and what they need to learn about real estate. But if they truly have a heart to serve, then they're going to be a good fit for me. And I tell people all the time, I don't hire salespeople. If you're in this for sales, we're
Right.
not your team. And so what I've really learned is just to stay true to that and not get turned on by the idea of like a big producer, because often a big producer, they need to find their own higher purpose to their business and go and do it. And we often, are going to have a conflict of opinion and will hold each other back rather than let me run and let me help you go run with what you need to do as well.
I love it. They grow into your model, or they're great people and they're just not a match. I love that philosophy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you touched on it a little bit. The pandemic has obviously created opportunities for us, and you guys in that area, New Jersey, New York, you've been really hard hit, right?
Yeah.
In spite of that, I mean, real estate has been transacted, families have been impacted. So do you see some of the things that you've done recently staying in place from a communication standpoint, even
Absolutely.
when the lockdown go away?
Absolutely. We pivoted within 72 hours of the shelter in place order for New Jersey to having Zoom huddle meetings as a team Monday through Friday. We will never go back to not, because we are so in step with each other right now because of it. We also, that first week, launched digital brochures for our listings that went so much deeper into detail so that we could limit the amount of foot traffic through our homes. And I could tell buyers agents, hey, until your buyers have signed off on this digital brochure, I just can't let them have access to the house for everyone's safety. And so those are definitely two things that will remain forever. And I think this kind of visual communication over Zoom, over FaceTime, through video messages, that will stay forever. I believe that we will return to the physical, but it will always be digitally enhanced from here on out, and we'll just continue to layer in more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. So let's shift gears. This movement, we'll call it, care, serve, and give. Tell us what that is and where did that come from?
Well, so I joined Keller Williams 9 years ago, and within the first year, I was introduced to Mo Anderson, the co-owner of the
Mo Anderson. Oh my gosh, what a treat.
Mo. And as I got to know her, she asked a lot of really tough questions, right? She's the Velvet Hammer. That's what she's great at. And she dug really deep into the why behind my business. And I told her I wanted to be a light in what is often a dark business world. And she and I share that mission. And then she's the one who said, okay, then I've got a plan for you. And now listen, I hadn't barely started the team yet, and I was doing about 15 million a year. She said, I'll tell you what, darling. You go get that team to 40 million, read all the John Maxwell books, serve on your ALC, lead your culture committee, and then you call me back. And I was like, ah.
And by the way, it wasn't an option, Vanessa. I know how it wasn't an option. It's like you have a little choice. Not really, though.
Whatever Mo tells me to do, it's like, yes, ma'am.
Yes, me too. Me too, by the way.
Exactly. I think that's all of us. And what's amazing about Mo is she is that person for all of us.
Oh my gosh.
So scary and amazing was setting this big vision for 40 million as a team. I didn't know how to do it, but now I knew what I needed to go do. And I woke up about a year and a half, 2 years later, and I'd hit that number. And I reached out to Mo and I said, look, this isn't to brag. I just feel accountable to tell you that I got to the 40 million. And now I get it. It wasn't about 40 million. It was about who I became along the way and what I discovered in terms of what I wanted to build my business on. And she said, there you go. And I said, can I tell you about it? And we had several awesome meetings, and I shared with her this vision of care, serve, give, which at first had become just a catchy motto. But then when I really thought it through, I really mapped it out and said, you know what? Care has 4 levels. Service has 4 levels. Generosity has 4 levels. And they're all the same 4 levels. It's self, it's team, it's your clients, and it's your community. What is your self-care? How do you care for your team? How do you care for your clients? And how do you show your community you care? Right? Same for service, same for generosity. And shortly after that vision, I also then launched Closing for a Cause. And so Closing for a Cause is then a technology leverage piece for other agents in the industry who want to live out care, serve, give, and want to be known for generosity, and want to have an easy way to share the message with their clients. So closingforacause.org was then born out of the care, serve, give model. And we really have just over time evolved into being known as this generosity-based business. And going back to what you said before, in COVID, last year we closed 55 million. This year we're closing almost double that.
Wow.
And it is not lost on me that in times of crisis, in times of a pandemic, when the community was scared but had real estate needs, they gravitated towards the business who they knew would take care of them, who they knew was going to put their money where their mouth was and go out and make a difference during times of crisis. I do believe none of this has anything to do with Vanessa Pollock. It's all about care, serve, give. That people gravitated towards that mission and that vision. And going back to answer your question, part of what Mo really, really pushed on me was the core values of this company. God first, then family, then business. And when I really focused in on my faith, I realized my creator had wired me up to be a leader and to inspire other people, right? And I wanted to inspire generosity because I'd witnessed generosity that changed my life, and I wanted to continue that ripple effect within my own business and within my own family. And so part of the self-care piece of all of this, because again, care, serve, give, care of self is first.
I love that.
That is the first domino down. Is how have you been wired up by your creator, and how are you going to then have that show up in the world? And I had a lot of things I had to get in. I had to do some housekeeping, the self-care housekeeping. I realized that I couldn't lead others, and I couldn't lead people to this mission until I could lead myself well. And I had things I had to change in my life in order to lead well. And so that was, again, a big piece of how the care, serve, give model then came to be. So I could do it from a place of real authenticity, and share with people my struggles and build a business and a life totally unified and connected and holistic, from the ground up. And I knew that part did start with me.
So then let's say that I'm an agent, or I'm a business owner in another part of the country. How do I become part of this organization? First, I've got to have the similar mindset and the similar beliefs, And yet, so how does that happen? Because like I said, I noticed that when I went to the map, I already saw some people that I totally respect that are in that relationship with you. And so how would somebody, like, how does that happen?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Several years ago, we launched Care Serve Give as a teaching moment, and I did an online class before online classes were a thing. And so the Care Serve Give class, which is about a half-day course, is living online and has been for 2.5 years. And oh, if anybody wants to watch it, you will get a kick out of the short brown hair and orange lipstick. I mean, it was like a whole nother look, right?
It was a different look. I was going to ask you about that, but now since you
Yes.
brought it up.
Look, I love fashion. I love design. I love
Yeah.
all of it. So it's a constantly evolving aesthetic with me. And that's a good representation of how much it's changed. But we put that class online about 3 years ago because so many people wanted to learn our business model and wanted to potentially implement it. And it is free. It's my gift to the industry. It's my gift to any entrepreneur, small business out there. I think it can apply to more than just realtors.
Absolutely.
And the idea is if you want to use the Care Serve Give hashtag and logo, and you're committed to closing for a cause as a giving tool, and you just feel like this is part of who you are, join the directory, right? Add yourself to the directory, so that people know that this is what you stand for. And yet there's a ton of people who aren't on that map who I know are doing this on a regular
Yeah.
basis. And I haven't pushed the directory or the map. That hasn't been my one thing. And yet I love that it's its own grassroots effort within our industry, and that we've got so many just unbelievably generous people in this company who are living it out in their own way. And I feel like we're all really united in our generosity, whether they're on the map or not.
Yeah, no doubt. So the closing for a cause now, is that a technology that people can use
It
to,
is.
okay, so talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit.
So closingforacause.org, be sure it's .org, is a website that I built out in partnership with a charitable giving website called goodworld.me. You don't need to remember that part, but I went to them and I said, look, I need to make giving so easy for realtors. They can do it in 2 clicks of a button.
I
And so
love
what
that.
you do is you share closingforacause.org with your client. There's a menu of charities for them to choose from, because when I first started doing this, my client and I said, "Hey, pick your charity, I'll make a donation." They're like, I don't know what to pick." So I
Right.
realized I needed to give them an opportunity to research it. So now I actually say, "Hey, will you sit down and look at closingforacause.org with your kids and with your family?" Because here's what I know about generosity through my research and developing the Care Serve Give model is that children who grow up around generous role models who talk about generosity actually grow up to be more generous and to give back in their community. So we get to plant the seed in our clients,
Wow.
in the families. So I love to just say, bring the kids to the computer screen, read through all these charities, click on the one that your family's most passionate about. You fill in a form and you push enter. And then when your home closes, our team will fund that donation. Now, what happens? I get a notification from that form that they fill out. I then go on to closingforacause.org, and there's an agent tab on the bottom, and I click on agent. And if they picked Give a Goat, which is an awesome charity for you buy a goat, or the goats are provided to families in Uganda, and it was started by a KW agent, Scott
Scott?
Panella.
Yeah.
Yes. So I put him on the homepage of Closing for a Cause because I just love everything he's doing. So anyway, I would click on Give a Goat, and in 2 clicks, because I've already established my account,
Yep.
it's funded. It's done.
That's
You
cool.
don't have to log into all the websites. You don't have to go to a million different places to fund things. It's just click, click, done.
I love it.
Yeah, and so
That is so
it's a
cool.
really cool tool,
Yeah.
and it's just such an honor to get to plant that seed of generosity in our clients' families, and hopefully help our agents be able to do it in a really leveraged, efficient way.
You know, it's so interesting. I remember because I've known Scott and Meg for a long time, and I remember when that was all starting with them, and it's just cool.
Yeah.
Now it's cool to see that, come full circle. So, wow. I mean, what great stuff you're doing, Vanessa. What great stuff. And I'm so glad Mo
Thank
connected us, and
you.
now I know why. So, such an amazing lady. So let's shift gears now again. Let's talk about Meg, the entrepreneur, the business owner, the driver
Yeah.
of the nonprofits. What's the best advice you've ever been given? Entrepreneurial advice or life advice, either one.
Yeah, I think the best advice came from the stage during Quantum Leap.
Okay.
I knew during that class that I was not the wife, mother, business owner, woman of faith that I wanted to be. And I knew that if I didn't focus on myself and get myself in order, nothing else was going to happen.
Sure.
And so when I joined Keller Williams 9 years ago, I walked in the door with a newborn, a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a drinking problem. And I was like, oh gosh.
It wasn't
help
caused
me.
by the kids. Let's just be clear.
Sure. When I took Quantum Leap, I realized I have to get myself in order. And as of July 23rd, I have 8 years of sobriety under my belt, and
For
it's
you.
not a joke, and it's not like a coincidence that I went from a 10 million a year producer to over 100 million a year because I stopped and I got myself in order first.
Right.
So I think that anytime we're pointing the finger, which I can do, we all can, we have to take a pause and say, wait, what do I need to work on right now? Because in doing that, everything else may change around me.
Yeah.
And it did for me.
Yeah,
Yep.
good for you. Well, and it goes back to your 4 levels in
Yes.
each of those areas. So that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
So I always like to flip it upside down and go, okay, what is the absolute worst advice that hopefully you never listened to that you ever got from anybody?
It was actually great advice, and I heard it wrong. I would have said when I first joined Keller Williams, what I heard was you have to build a big team. And at first, that was driven by numbers and it was driven by production, right? But I hadn't dug deep into the 6 personal perspectives and Quantum Leap and team building and finding the higher purpose of my business yet. Because when I realized that that wasn't the worst advice, that actually was also the best advice, as long as it was sistered up with the cornerstone of the higher purpose and the why behind it all. Because when I first heard it, I was like, build a huge business. Oh my gosh, why? We can't give good service that way, right? And I just thought that's just the craziest thing I'd ever heard. Now I know, listen to those who know more than we do. And if you feel yourself go, oh, that's the worst advice, again, stop and ask yourself why, what's making me uncomfortable with that, and
Right.
interrogate that.
Yeah, stay in curiosity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I did not prepare you for this yet. I know that you'll be able to nail this one. What's a great book that you're reading or you've read that you'd share with our listeners?
Oh gosh, I have the MREA right there, but it's under my mic stand, so I can't even
Yeah,
pick it
don't
up.
do that. You'll mess up the mic. Any other
So
books?
the Millionaire Real Estate Agent is a constant, and I just picked up the Seth Godin book, The Practice.
Okay.
And I'm like 10 pages into it. I'm actually reading through all of the books that I'm putting on a reading list for my son. My son has finished high school early. He's launching into the work world, the workforce in February. He just got a big job offer in his chosen music field. And from now to then, mom and dad have a reading list for him. And yet I need to read all the books before I ask him to read them. And this one is all about the practice, which is the journey of things, right? Not just the results. And I think already that book has got some great nuggets in it. I can't wait to finish it.
I love it. I love it. Well, Vanessa, you have been amazing today. Oh my gosh. And if I ever move to New Jersey, I know who I'm going to be selecting as my real estate agent.
Oh,
Because I mean, I just feel it. I just feel like, the level of service and the heart that you deliver is just so different. And I can understand why it's been such an attraction for a lot of people. So as we kind of tie up everything, what would be one final thought you'd share with our listeners on the journey of success that you've been on?
I think there's a formula to it, and I'll share with you my formula.
I love it.
It is purpose plus action. That equals profit, which then yields giving. So you've got to find out the higher purpose of your business, your life, the why behind all of it, and how your creator wired you up just to thrive. Then marry that with action within your business. For me, I don't lead generate. I call people and I invite them to my fundraiser for my music initiative. I don't lead generate. I call them and I invite them to our holiday photo shoot on my front porch every year. I don't lead generate. I call and I check in and ask if they know of a healthcare worker who needs a gift card to lift their spirits during COVID.
I love it.
So you marry your purpose plus action. That's where you see the profit. That's where the success comes. And out of that is where you can be generous. And I guess I would just say, I don't want people to feel like generosity has to be monetary. Often the most generous thing you can do is share your story, share your journey, inspire other people with the truth, the authenticity and transparency of who you are. You can share real estate, right? Have a coffee on your front porch and just open up your home to people. Yeah. And there's so many different ways to be generous. So yeah, purpose plus action equals profit, which yields giving. I think if you go put that into place, you can't be stopped.
I think we just created the title of your podcast with that last statement. So I love that.
It's not care, serve, give.
Well, okay. Now I guess we're going to have a debate. I love it. I love it.
Do I get a subtitle?
There is a subtitle. Yes, there's.
There you go.
There
the title is care, serve, give. Purpose plus action equals profit, which yields giving. Thank you.
Well, Vanessa, first of all, thanks again so much. We so appreciate it. And I know that our listeners are going to love this. And for our listeners, as you know, we always love when you listen and support, and we're so grateful. So you can subscribe at your favorite podcast source, or you can go to www.thesuccessascent.com. And Vanessa, thanks again so much. We just appreciate your time today.
I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity to share my journey, share what we're doing. I hope it inspires listeners to go out and figure out how they can make an impact in their community through their life and through their business. And yeah, this has just been an absolute treat. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. As I end every conversation, everybody be safe, be healthy, and have an awesome day. Take care, everybody. If you've not yet subscribed, please go to your favorite podcast source and subscribe to The Success Ascent, or simply go to www.thesuccessascent, and that's ASCENT.com, thesuccessascent.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to catching you on the next ascent.